Most of you know he's Assemblyman. He's going to be running for state senate. He's a Second Amendment guy. I know that because I've been shooting with him. So without further ado, Greg.
How's everybody doing?
I'm good.
Okay, by show of hands, how many people know who I am? And I think you'll like me. Jim, put your hand up. How many people don't know who I am? Okay, I'm real quick, okay? I'm a big pain in the ass to New York State government, okay? Former Air Force captain, Air Force Academy graduate, grew up in Paulding where there are more cows than people, got my first pair of shoes when I was 12. For the people from Westchester and Rockland, I'm kidding, okay? That was a joke. This is my dad. He was a postal worker. Both of my parents were in the unions. My mother's an absolute saint. This is my dad, please. I was the first in my family to graduate from college, from the United States Air Force Academy, and let me just say this very clearly. We live in the greatest nation that this world has ever known. Period. End of story. There's no debate about it. But the very definition of history, requires that nations rise and nations fall. The greatness of America has never been in mealy-mouthed politicians like those you find in the New York State Legislature or Washington, D.C. You're going to find an awful lot of politicians who come to meetings like this to pay homage to what you stand for, yet they never stood for it until they believed it was within their political interest to do so. They are not true patriots. And it's not about Republican versus Democrat. It's not about independent or vegetarian versus vegan. The path that this nation is taking, the path that the United States is taking, the path that New York and California have taken and led the charge in is inherently un-American. And the greatness of this good nation rests not in my hands, not in the hands of the other politicians that you've heard from and you're going to hear from. The greatness of this country is in yours. A country that puts its hope in the hands of politicians ends up with presidents like Obama. And I'll tell you what, welcome to George Bush's third term. Over 30,000 troops going into Afghanistan. The greatest level of government spending when you take George Washington and George Bush and combine everybody. This politician, which yes, is a dirty word. First oldest profession? Second oldest?
Politician.
Because he had to figure out how to tax the first. This president ran as a candidate who said, we're going to end Bush's runaway spending, and we're going to end the war. As a Republican, and I'll tell you, if I was not in politics, I would probably be in that greatest party of all, unaffiliated. And the fastest growing party in the United States of America, because I am not happy with my own party. And that's why Putnam County insiders have spent over $1 million to try to kill a 32-year-old former Air Force captain. I don't mean cutting my brains, not that I know of. Mr. DeVessi may know differently. But I mean politically. Because when you stand up to the insiders, and by the way, before the Tea Party started, we had a tax revolt on the county courthouse steps, and we had over 600 people from Putnam County when they proposed a tax increase of nearly 60%. And it dropped to 22, 23%, which was still too high. But the politicians will go one way or the other. If you remember the Gingrich Revolution, the contract with America, right? We all supported that. And the genesis of that came from a crazy billionaire from Texas, if you remember. This is a guy who took on a president who had 90% plus approval ratings. And you talk about an American hero. That man was an American hero. Is an American hero. As was John McCain. And he took on the best politician. I didn't say statesman. It's a politician. Bill Clinton. That we've ever seen. Better than the guy we have now. And that crazy billionaire, before he jumped out and said the Cubans were trying to kill him, was beating both. and the thunder that was created in that movement. And you should think about that because, you know, you guys are starting to have a little bit of identity crisis. What do you do next? What should the Tea Party movement do next? Do we storm the Bastille? Do we storm our state capitals? And you laugh, right? But King George wanted 10% and had a revolution. You're giving nearly 50%, and we laugh when we talk about storming our state capital. And we laugh because we have become comfortable and because we have been placated and bought off by a government that is using unconstitutional mechanisms to secure money from us and then give a percentage back as a bonus. If you required every American to pay their taxes on April 15th in full, there would be a revolution the next day. And you talk about promoting a culture of savings and investment. But our government doesn't want to do that. There's enough hot air in this room. Now you all know who I am, unless you're falling asleep. Regardless of what this organization, regardless of what your movement decides, I want you to know that I am a foot soldier in your revolution. Will this be a revolution? I hope so. I hope that the good hopes and dreams and ideas that you have, the love of your country, the patriotism, the bedrock core of conservative principles that are in your hearts, in your breasts, in your minds, will not be bastardized by politicians who use it to win in 2010 and then drop it like a lead balloon because when it comes to making the tough decisions, they're not going to be there. Learn from what has happened again and again and again. Hold your politicians accountable. Do not befriend them. They are not your friends. Thank you. God bless.